And welcome to another episode of Upon Further Review. I'm Josh Aubrey. We'll be hearing from Frank Sulkowski, the big guy from WJCL, in just a moment. We'll get his take on the Georgia Southern loss to Indiana and also our area high school football from this past week. Of course, the Georgia Southern Eagles, the big story is that they have lost another game. They showed a few signs of life on offense, but took some major steps back on defense and in turnovers and in penalties. We'll see. We'll hear from Coach Summers and some of the players, and we'll show you some highlights from that game with Indiana. As for our area high schools, some good news there. Statesboro High and Portal both pick up their first wins of the season. Both of them were coming off tough, heartbreaking losses from the week before, and of course Statesboro snaps a 16-game losing streak in the process with their big win coming and homecoming this past week. And we'll also show you some highlights from Southeast Bulloch, putting up quite a fight against Jenkins, who's ranked 5th in the state for a reason. And we'll also show you some highlights from Bulloch Academy. They came from behind to pick up a big win against Robert Toombs Christian Academy this past Friday. We'll get to Frank Sokowski in just a moment, but before that, we'd like to remind you, for any legal advice you may have in the Statesboro, Bulloch County area, talk to our buddy Lovett Bennett Jr., attorney at Law PC. Lovett's law office is located in downtown Statesboro. And joining me now, the big guy from WJCL Television in Savannah, Frank Sokowski. And Frank, we mentioned it in the top of the show, Georgia Southern on the road at Indiana. I think there were a lot of question marks, and obviously there still are some. You were there. First of all, your quick impression of, being up there in the Big Ten environment. We've never seen that. What was that like for you guys?
Well, I tell you what, going to a place you've never been before, you got to get used to it. You don't have long to get used to it when you're Georgia Southern. You were jumping right into it. With that said, Indiana doesn't have quite the following that some of the other Big Ten schools have. So it wasn't like Georgia Southern was going into an environment like they saw maybe in week 1 against Auburn. The fan base, not as big. I mean, when you're talking about, you were only going to get maybe 35,000 people there tops, and that's pretty much what we saw. It was a cool environment to go somewhere you've never been before. Georgia Southern's first ever game in the state of Indiana and the first ever game against the Big Ten. So that in itself was a pretty cool experience, and the team staying in Indianapolis and then going over to the University of Indiana. So you were right down the street from where the Colts play and the NFL Combine is. And as always, it's fun to go someplace you've never been and you get to see the sights and get a chance to experience something new.
What about the food, Frank? We know you're there. You're checking out the delicacies there. What'd you have?
Well, I tell you what, we went kind of simple. We just kind of went to a sports bar and had the basics. But I can tell you this. If you're ever there, it was a soft pretzel stuffed with pepper jack cheese and then deep fried. That's all I got to say. Enough said. It was awesome.
All right. Well, I wish we could say the game was as tasty, but unfortunately the Eagles dig themselves an early hole. Had some moments here and there, but overall, they give up 50 points. Your thoughts on where the Georgia Southern Eagles are right now, and were you surprised at all by the outcome?
What I did see some improvement by the offense. I really did, in the fact that, they were able to score and they moved the ball. However, turnovers, costly penalties, Georgia Southern, again, having to deal with 3rd down and 7, 3rd down and 8. And when you're trying to establish the run, that's kind of hard to overcome. Had a couple fumbles there. I did see Georgia Southern move the ball a little bit better than we've seen in the first 2 games. So to me, that was a positive. The one thing now I'm concerned as we move forward is I think we're starting to see the defense digress and digress a little bit, where, they played really well at Auburn. However, they gave up some points early to New Hampshire, and then they gave up a lot of points this trip to Indiana.
Yeah, that's what seems to be the frustrating thing with this team, is like when they get one thing started to look a little bit better, like maybe the offense threw a couple touchdowns, got the ball in the air, then you take 2 steps back with the turnovers, with the penalties, with the defense struggling. So, I mean, that's the tough thing, is you want to see some progress. I mean, the first game, you don't commit a turnover. Then this one, you commit some costly ones. You don't have hardly any penalties in the first game of the season. You have over 100 yards of penalties in this one. That's got to be the thing that has fans, coaches, players scratching their heads.
Well, yeah, and again, you know, a lot has been said about the offense, the inability to move the ball and score points. They did score 17, and granted, 17 is not enough, but it is improvement where they actually scored more points against Indiana than they did New Hampshire. But like you said, yeah, it'd be easy if we could put a finger on one problem, but now we're having something rear its head this time that we haven't seen since week 1, and this, that, and the other. Now, like we touched on, defense played really well against Auburn, still only gave up 22 points to New Hampshire. This game, some big plays and just some costly big plays that that were kind of tough to see.
Well, your thoughts on how Coach Summers was reacting after the game? I mean, this is the first one that I haven't been there to get a chance to get a feel for that. I did see your interview, and we'll have some of that coming up in just a moment. But sometimes I kind of gauge things by how he is. How did he see him after the game?
You can see he's upset. I mean, I think he's frustrated as well. Again, we got to remember these things. And again, I'm not defending a coaching staff. I'm not defending this or that and the other. Coaches try to get you in the best situation to succeed out there. Coaches aren't the one committing chop blocks or holding or fumbling the ball on the field. That's the tough thing. I mean, so you can only do so much. It's like when you're teaching your child to ride a bike and you got your hands on it and you're really secure and you're running up and down the street. At some point, you let that thing go. Well, the first couple times, the bike's going to maybe tip over, fall over, and you're going to have some scrapes and bumps. But the more you keep doing that, eventually you're going to get the hang of it. And that's where I think the coaching staff and a little sect of the fan base still is, where they're holding out hope that the Sun Belt play is still ahead of them. 9 games left in the season, and again, I'm not saying that this team, everything is right in the world. I did see some improvements over the first 2 games, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. But again, like we talked about, I saw some things slide back into the negative column with the turnovers, the penalties, and the defense giving up so many big plays.
So, like, if we could find a way to get the ball security of the Auburn game, along with the defense from the second half of the New Hampshire game, along with the offense from maybe toward the end of the first half and a little bit of the second half of the Indiana game, well, then you've probably got a pretty good game right there. You got a good game plan, and maybe the penalties from the Auburn game, which were non-existent. But that's been the frustrating thing, is to get it all together and put it all together. They've still got an extra Saturday and kind of a strange week here, as they don't play till Wednesday, and we'll preview that game a little bit later in the week. But stay with us. Coming up next, we'll take a look at some of the highlights and hear from Coach Summers and some of the players from the game at Indiana.
Lee Hill and Johnston Insurers. We've been Statesboro's insurance people since 1963. That's a lot of memories. Recognized as one of the leading agencies in Georgia, Lee Hill and Johnston is independent and offers a complete line of personal and business insurance for auto, life, home, and health. We'll shop companies to find the lowest premiums and best coverage for you, your family, or your business. Lee Hill and Johnston Insurers, the insurance people since 1963.
To stay ahead, a parent has to really be on the go and stop for school, stop for sports, stop for an intervention. But you don't have to stop for banking. To stay ahead with mobile online banking, bank ahead with Queensboro National Bank and Trust.
See Jeremy Reagan and the staff at Queensboro National Bank and Trust, South Main Street in Statesboro.
All right, well, we heard from Frank Sulkowski, got his take on the past game and gave my take on it as well. Now let's see some highlights from Georgia Southern and Indiana and hear from head coach Tyson Summers and some players. First ever trip to Indiana for the Eagles. They're taking on the Hoosiers. Indiana wastes no time as Morgan Ellis goes in from 2 yards out to make it 7-0. Later, off the Eagle punt, Jayshun Harris fields it, finds a seam, and he takes off going 70 yards for the touchdown. Indiana up quickly 14-0. In the second, up 24-0. Morgan Ellison goes in to make it 31-0. The Eagles finally score late in the half. Shai Wertz, his first ever touchdown pass as he hits Ellis Richardson for the 23-yard score to make it 31-7 at the half. We move to the second half, and Ian Thomas goes up top to Richard Legault, who carries Eagle defenders into the end zone for the 70-yard score. IU up 45-7. Georgia Southern adds another touchdown through the air as Shai Wertz hits DeAndre Glenn on the 63-yard score, but it would prove too little, too late, as the Eagles fall by a final of 52-17.
And we've got to do a better job. I mean, ultimately, the thing that happens today more than anything else from us from a defensive standpoint is just giving up way too many big plays. Gave up way too many big plays. And like you said, we start a couple different first down, second down, whatever it is, where we're not able to start a drive or start a series really in the second, third quarter, when we're not able to get out to a fast start with each series. And again, just too many big plays and again, penalties.
We're gonna stay confident. You know, that's what we are. That's what we're about at Georgia Southern. You know, and no matter what our record is, we're gonna come out every day and every Saturday and play as hard as we can. Yeah, we clicked a little bit. We started out slow, and you know, I had a fun at the beginning of the game, and that kept us a little bit. But you know, we got better today on the offensive side of the ball, but it wasn't good enough because we didn't get the W.
And stay with us. Coming up next, Frank Sulkowski joins us once again, this time to talk some area high school football. Family Internal Medicine Associates of Statesboro, providing primary care for Statesboro area patients since 1998, providing complete physicals, complete sports physicals, Medicare wellness exams, full diabetes treatment, and education from lifestyle changes to oral medications to insulin pump therapy. In-house dermatology, in-house circulation tests and ultrasounds, in-house lab. And introducing our new nurse practitioner, Melissa Beasley, as we now accommodate same-day or next-day appointments to serve your needs. Family Internal Medicine Associates of Statesboro, where we care.
No credit refused isn't just an offer, it's a way of business and has been for over 100 years. No banks, no ridiculous credit requirements, just local Badcock store owners who treat you right and give you credit when others won't. It's never been easier to express your style and love your home.
And join me once again, the big guy from WJCL Television in Savannah, Frank Sokowski. Frank, we know you were up in Indiana and Bloomington up there with the Georgia Southern Eagles, but you've had a chance, and I know you were kind of keeping up with how the area teams went, and I had to send you the text. I don't know where you were, if you were eating, you were going to sleep, watching a movie, whatever it was, but I had to send you. The streak is over. The Statesboro Blue Devils have come through with the victory. We had Statesboro High with the win at home. Portal, coming back from their heartbreaking loss, picks up a big win at home. Bulloch Academy wins at home. They had to come from behind to do it. Southeast Bulloch falls to Jenkins. Let's begin with Statesboro High. We knew that it could happen. You mentioned it last week. You felt good about the Appling County game. They almost did the old Statesboro thing again, but they were able to hold on and defeat Appling 28-21.
Well, the big thing out of this is, again, congratulations to Coach Kaiser, his first win as Statesboro's head coach, and congratulations to the Blue Devils. You knew the streak was going to have to come to an end at some point. It finally did against Appling County, so a big congratulations there. Now you have something you can build off of. Again, the week before, the loss to Effingham was kind of tough. You were scared that that could send the team back, spiraling maybe back into the negative, but they were able to put that thing behind them on a short week, because remember that Statesboro-Effingham game was played on Saturday, so there was one less day there. They were able to regroup and get a big win over Appling County. And again, the streak is over. You have a win in your win column. Now you get a chance to build off of that. You don't have to worry about when is that first win coming. You got it. Now go forward and get ready for region play and pick up some more.
Yeah, you always say you got to learn how to win. Now they've got one. Now see if they can string a couple together. They've got Tatnall coming up this week. All right. Well, meanwhile, over in Brooklet, Southeast Bulloch and Jenkins, we need Jenkins. They're ranked, I believe, 5th in the state. They're ranked 5th in the state for a reason. That offense was chugging right along. Southeast Bulloch puts up quite a battle. They held them. It was 17-14 at the half. They took a lead in the second, and then Jenkins kind of rolled from there. That big fullback, their quarterback Middleton, throwing the ball pretty well. A lot of weapons for Jenkins.
There are a lot of weapons for Jenkins, and again, I think the Warriors going into the season were the pick to maybe win the region title and be the cream of the crop out of the Savannah Public Schools, and they're showing just that. They're ranked in the state for the first time in a long time. Last year, they went to the state playoffs for the first time in a long time and advanced to the second round. This squad is just as good. You talked about the running back, Amin Stevens, a big bruising back who's going to get his yards. He did just that. And good teams find a way to win in hostile territory. Southeast Bulloch, no slouch at all. Like I said, you cannot knock them for this schedule they've played early this year, and you hope that's going to definitely help them prepare for the stretch run as we get closer to when it gets cold weather, which means getting closer to the playoffs. But again, Southeast Bulloch going toe-to-toe with the 5th-ranked team in the state, and they gave them a game, and we're right in it till late in that contest. So again, I think Southeast Bulloch, I think they're close. And like Statesboro got that win. I think Southeast Bulloch has been so competitive that it's all going to click here in the coming weeks, and hopefully that will catapult them into one of the 4 spots and get into the state playoffs and make some noise.
Yeah, they could even host a playoff game. I mean, I don't think they're going to play a team as good as the ones they've played. I mean, you got the BCs, the Jenkins, every team I think that they've played is either ranked or looks like is heading for a state playoff appearance at least. All right, we got Bulloch Academy. They come back home. They have Robert Toombs. They go down like 28-12, end up coming back to win that game. Some big interceptions, a couple big plays in that game for BA. With playing a team like Robert Toombs, fairly even in talent, big win for them as well.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we talked about last week on the show when we were talking about all these Bulloch County teams. I don't mean to kind of give myself a pat on the back, but I believe I picked every game accurately this week, and they kind of played out. Again, we'll get to that Portal game in a minute. That was the one I was kind of questioning. Robert Toombs, very similar teams, very similar in the talent level. I thought maybe BA's passing game was going to be the difference in this one. I tell you what ended up being the big difference was BA's defense down the stretch to come up with some big interceptions and really seal a pretty dang big win at home there Friday night. That's one of those type games that you'll look at later in the schedule and be like, this could be the turning point. This was a really quality win. Robert Toombs, as always, a perennial good team here, especially in the GISA in Southeast Georgia. So a very quality win for the Gators back on Friday night.
And wrapping up our area teams, you had the Portal Panthers coming off that loss to Jenkins County where they had a 28-8 lead, saw it evaporate. Much like Statesboro, they've struggled just to win games. It looks like at the end of the games, it's like, what are we going to do to lose this one? Instead, they come out, they blow out Wheeler, they step on the pedal early, score 28 points in the first half and kind of cruise, which is nice for Portal to pick up that win and give these kids some hope for the rest of the year.
And again, that's one of the things that we talked about that, very similar to the week before against Jenkins County, they jump out to a big lead. The big thing there for Portal was they didn't let up. They really never gave Wheeler a chance to think they were in the game. Jenkins County has enough athletes a couple weeks back that if they were around and once they started scoring, they had a belief that they could come back and win the game, and that's what happened. Wheeler County, once you put kind of that foot on the pedal and you kind of started blowing past them, they didn't have the horses in the fight to win that race. So it was really good to see Portal put a very disappointing loss behind them and move on with a win. Like you said, very similar to Statesboro. My only wish is for those two teams, that could be really big swings. If Portal would have beat Jenkins County and Statesboro could have held on against Effingham, that could have been something really magical when you start talking about later in the year with the overall records. But again, really nice to see both those teams bounce back this week.
Now you got wins now, and you got region ahead and some big region games coming up for those guys. All right, well, Frank, we appreciate you joining us, and we'll be back with Frank later on in the week to preview the upcoming matchups for the area high school teams here in Bulloch County.
Center Pharmacy on Grenade Street is proud to be your Health Mart pharmacy in Statesboro. The Medical Center Pharmacy, locally owned and serving this community for 50 years, is open 364 days a year. The pharmacists at Medical Center know there's nothing more important than your family's well-being. That's why they take the time to know their customers, explain their medications, and answer any questions. The Medical Center Pharmacy, your Health Mart pharmacy. Health Mart, caring for you and about you.
Hey, Miss Thompson, everything's fine. It's going to be no problem. I'll have you done in a few minutes.
My name is Paisley Nordhoff, part owner of Complete Car Care, and I want you to come see me.
Well, you've heard me and Frank discuss the matchups. Now let's get out and see some highlights from Statesboro and Southeast Bulloch, Portal, and Bulloch Academy, all playing at home. 3 wins and 1 loss. Let's get out and see how things went. Homecoming queen Valencia Robinson crowned at halftime of Statesboro's matchup with Appling County. Things look pretty good early on. Stacy Fleming breaks into the open field and gets deep into Appling territory. A little bit later, the give to Fleming, and he's in for the touchdown. Statesboro up 7-0. Statesboro's defense coming to play early on. Xavier Lee with the hit for a loss. And then a little bit later, check out the hit by Jonathan Littles back on offense, and Davis Wiggins going to work. Then Corey Gibson for a first down. We move to the second quarter, still 7-0. And the two would hook up again. Wiggins rifles it in, and Gibson hauls it in. Statesboro up 14-0, but Appling coming back. Tyler Jones to Khalil Russell later, and it's Al Lewis going in for the score. Tie the game at 14-all, but in the second half, the Blue Devils right back at it on offense. The give to Fleming, who finds a seam and fights his way in for the score to make it 21-14 Blue Devils. The defense then with a nice goal line stand, and they cause the fumble. They'd recover it, promptly march downfield. Here Tupac Lanier gets free, and he'll go all the way into Pirate territory down to the 35. We move ahead to the 4th. Lanier fights his way in for the touchdown. Statesboro up 28-14. Things looking good. But with the Blue Devils, you always have to hold your breath. The touchdown late cuts the lead to 7. But then a formation we haven't seen in quite some time, victory formation, and Statesboro snaps their 16-game losing streak, winning 28-14. The Bulloch Academy Gators back home as they host Robert Toombs Friday night. On the opening kickoff, things looking bad for the Crusaders. They bobble the ball. It's picked up alertly by the Gators. They're in action, and Don Aaron, the perfect pass to Ty Mingle for the touchdown. Bulloch Academy up 6-0. The defense causing some havoc, coming up with the fumble recovery, but the Crusaders eventually go down, and they'd end up scoring here. Austin Atkins in for the touchdown. 14-6 at the half. Second half, and it's Billy Tillman getting a block, finding some room to run, and he's gone 70 yards for the touchdown. The Gators would cut the lead to 2. The Crusaders storm right back. Again, it's Atkins going in for the score. They'd end up taking a 28-12 lead, but the Gators come back. The screen pass to Brandon Merrill, who fights his way into Crusader territory a little later. The pitch to Ty Mingle, who avoids a couple tackles and gets deep. This would lead to 1 touchdown The Gator defense coming up with some turnovers in this game. Here, Will Aaron makes the leaping catch. That would lead to another score, and then late in the game, this would prove to be the game winner, the tip pass, and Will Aaron pulls it in for the interception and the touchdown, and the Gators win 32-28. In Brooklet, Southeast Bulloch with their hands full, hosting top 10 ranked Jenkins in their region opener. The Warriors moving downfield. First some passing, getting them close, and then it's big Amin Stevens finding some room and plowing his way into the end zone for the touchdown at 7-0. But on the ensuing kickoff, Tyler Thornton does what he's been doing quite a bit lately. He finds a seam, takes off downfield, gets deep into Jenkins territory, and from there, Southeast able to answer. They give to their go-to running back, and Chase Walker goes all the way in for the score, and we're tied at 7. Later, Jenkins looking for more, but Logan Gomez is going to pick this one off for Southeast Bulloch, and he'll take this one. Takes a big hit, but he also gets into Jenkins territory. Southeast looking for the lead, and Chase Walker spinning and taking off for the touchdown. Southeast with the lead in this one. Jenkins trying to come back again, but this time it's Tyler Thornton in the end zone, the leaping interception. Southeast dodges another bullet, but before the half, quarterback Javante Middleton goes around the corner. He's in for the score. They'd had a field goal to take a 17-14 halftime lead. Second half, and Jontrell Wells takes off, picks up a first down. A few plays later, Chase Walker punches it in. Southeast up 21-17 in the third. Then Javante Middleton taking off. Middleton one more time, a nice play action, and takes it outside for the score, and Jenkins would hold on to win this one by a final of 31-21. And finally in Portal, the Panthers hosting Wheeler County, looking for their first win of the season. Things looking bad for the home team as Wheeler will pick up a big run here, getting deep into Panther territory, but the defense holds from there, and on fourth down, Portal with the stop. Craig Ware helping out on the hit. And then it's his little brother, Brian, helping on offense. Ware getting deep into Wheeler territory here. Thrown down just shy of the 15-yard line. They go back to Ware. And Brian Ware in for the touchdown. Portal takes a 7-0 lead. The defense continuing to hold Wheeler County in check. Connor Washington helping with the stop. Then a little bit later, the sack. Back on offense, and Portal moving downfield. This time it's Craig Ware breaking some tackles and getting all the way down inside the 30. Ryan Ware gets the carry from there. He ends up just shy of the 10. And then back to the end zone we go, and it's Craig Ware fighting in for the score. This one all Portal. They win 45-22. And that'll wrap it up for this week's show. I'd like to thank Frank Sulkowski for joining us, and don't forget to tune in later on in the week as we'll preview the upcoming high school matchups and kind of dig in a little more on how things are going for the Georgia Southern Eagles. I'd like to thank you for joining us and see you again soon.